Hi, my name's Andy Popwell. I teach radio production at Havering College, and my family is Essex for centuries. I researched it all the way back to 1749 and quite possibly not beyond that, but I haven't got the direct link. So although I grew up in South Wales, I'm an Essex family man.
Andy, do you know where Canvey Island is?
Canvey Island is a sort of semi-detached island, if you like, off the south coast of Essex. It's quite a big area and quite a lot of people live there.
Did you know that it's an area affected by floods?
I did. I've heard a lot about how low-lying it is. Of course, the threat of global warming is like to affect places like Canvey Island. It's got sea walls and sea defences and so on to try and protect itself from that if the sea level rises or big storms happen.
Have you ever experienced a flood?
Only sort of indirectly. I was in New Zealand many years ago in the South Island, where it rains a lot at the best of times, and there'd been a period of extremely heavy rain, and we were in the mountains. I've never been so wet in my life. There was nothing dangerous about it. But walking through the mountains there, we had to change our route because there were all these extra lakes which weren't on the map. And some of them were big, you know, half a mile or a mile long, huge bits of water. And it just shows you the power of heavy rainfall over a long period.
Did you know that on the night of 1953 a tidal surge came down the North Sea, flooding lowlands in its path? Canvey Island was badly hit with the seawall washing away in the Toots Creek area.
Yes, I'd heard about the big flood at Canvey Island in 1953. It was a major disaster. Britain was in a pretty bad state at that time, having not really got over the Second World War. The sea defences were inadequate. If I remember correctly, there was a storm surge came down the North Sea at the same time as a high tide was coming up from the south, and the two coincided at Canvey Island, and the seawalls were breached, and I think quite a few people lost their lives. It was
58 people died.
58 people apparently lost their lives, and it was quite a tragedy.
Harry, do you know where Canvey Island is?
It's where it's like, didn't it used to be like a little like amusement park, but you had like bomber cars and stuff, but it went to like crap, and now it's like nothing there. It's kind of just like a couple of caravans. Bit of sea, really. I don't really know. I just know I went there a little bit as a kid and there was like bomber cars and it's pretty cool. It's really cheap. There was like a cinema that had like 3 films, that's about it. Yeah, carry on.
Did you know that it's an area affected by floods?
Next to the sea, probably, yeah.
Have you ever experienced a flood?
Sat down to cook in the bath once. But like when you like fill up too much before you get in, thinking, oh, it'll be fine, forgetting that like once you get in, like something that's not dense, like it raises because of the pressure and stuff. So yeah, carry on.
Did you know that on the night of 1953, a tidal surge came down the North Sea, flooding lowlands in its path? Canvey Island was badly hit with the seawall washing away in the Toots Creek area, and 58 people died.
50. I didn't know because I was born in 1953. And it's not something you Google, but no. I didn't. How old did 58 people? How big was the flood?
Hi, my name is Marshad Ahmed and I'm a student at Havering College.
Do you know where Canvey Island is?
Canvey Island, no.
Did you know that it's an area affected by floods? Have you ever experienced a flood?
No. Can't say so myself. But I've heard a lot about floods and dangers and sort of.
So what have you?
So I've witnessed on the news and I've seen a lot of things happening in and around England. Other countries, they've experienced floods. It takes away their homes, their food, that sort of things, and it leaves them months without any source of food or any sort of home or shelter. and there's no sort of way of stopping it because it's a natural thing. So yeah, I understand it makes life very difficult, but I've never experienced it. So yeah.
Did you know that on the night of 1953 a tidal surge came down the North Sea, flooding lowlands in its path? Canvey Island was one of the areas what were badly affected, washing away the seawall.
That's I wasn't aware of that, but that sounds quite dangerous and quite sad to think that a lot of people were affected by such a.
And 58 people died.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy. Like, the numbers, it's crazy. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Lucy. I do level 3 media at Havering College.
Do you know where Canvey Island is?
Yes, it's on the coast of Essex.
Did you know that it's an area affected by floods?
Logically I'd say yes, because it's on the coast, so it would be near the sea, but in like personal facts then no.
Have you ever experienced a flood?
Not personally, but I know someone that did get affected by a flood.
And what was that like?
For them it was scary, as they thought they were near death.
Really?
Yeah.
Where is this?
I believe it was a later date in Canvey.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it was like in 2006 or something.
Wow.
I'm not quite sure of the date.
Did you know that on the night of 1953 a tidal surge came down on the North Sea, flooding lowlands in its path? Canvey Island was badly hit, with the seawall washing away in the Tooks Creek area.
No, I didn't know.
And did you know that 58 people died during that event?
No.
How do you feel about that?
It's quite heartfelt,
Mm.
because you think those innocent people who died due to a natural disaster, like it's something unexpected to them, like they didn't know what was going on. It's like waking up one day and the next day you're not waking up. It's like that's like kind of the same metaphor, if you get what I mean.
Hello, I'm Brian Seeley. I'm a retired greengrocer. When I was a young man, 14, I cycled to Canvey Island to witness the floods. I arrived, I think, about 3 days after the initial flood, and watched all the soldiers building walls with sandbags and stuff like that, and lots of buses still there taking people off the island. And my main memory is that it was freezing cold and the wind was blowing, and it was February, very cold, and it had been taken nearly 3 hours to cycle from London to Canvey Island.
Really?
Yeah, so it's a long way. Well, it is for a 14-year-old on a bike.
Yeah, what made you cycle to the place?
Well, because we'd seen it on the telly about the floods,
Yeah.
and we thought we'd cycle down there and see for ourselves, me and 2 other boys. But the road leading on was under quite a lot of water, and they wasn't letting people go on there because they thought that they would loot the empty properties, where they move people out.
Yeah.
There would be people going in there trying to steal the properties. So we stayed, but we could see the army going back and forward, and lots of police and buses and lorries taking the sandbags. So, and the water was still quite deep then, even 3 or 4 days later. So,
what was the surrounding area like cycling onto the island?
well, we came up, I think the road was called the A12, and it had cycle lanes all the way from London, so we wasn't actually in the traffic.
Right.
So I think, I'm not sure if they're still there, but they were quite wide, not like the modern cycle lanes. They was wide enough for a car to drive along.
Really?
So the cycling there was all exciting because we can actually see the floods in person, but the cycling back wasn't so good because by then you was tired and hungry because there was nowhere to get anything to eat in them days on the edge of the island.
What was
yeah?
the bridge like leading onto the island?
Well, that was under, I think that was under about 4 to 6 inches of water, but the lorries and buses could go over it, you know, but we wasn't allowed on anyway.
So would you say that you'd know that it was affected by floods, the area?
Well, yeah, from what we could see was only water, and nearly every road that we could see across the bridge had deep water on it, and you could see how far it come up the wheels of the lorries and the buses. So in places it was like 2-3 foot deep, you know, because there was big army lorries there. I don't know if there's any newsreels available that you could Google to have a look at it. And the wind was very strong and blowing, and it was freezing cold and raining. So,
would you say that you've ever experienced a flood? Obviously, going to the island?
Well, there was no floods in London at that time. It was only around the coast. And I think it was further up. There was a bit of a surge further up the country the day before, flooding some of the coast earlier. And it worked its way down to Canvey.
So, on the night of 1953, a tidal surge came down the North Sea, flooding lowlands in its path. Canvey Island was the worst, what was hit, and it washed away the seawall and, like...
There wasn't a seawall. Yeah. If I remember going on to Canvey before, it was a bank of a grass bank, like earth with grass on it. It didn't have a concrete structure at the time.
Oh wow!
It was more a bank than a seawall. It's a seawall now, isn't it? You know, made of concrete.
And how do you feel knowing that 58 people passed away during the?
Well, being alive through the war when lots of people died all the time, you know, it's tragic. But you know, as young fellas, you've been around death for like 14 years during the war as well, you know, they're 4 or 5 years during the war. So, you know, these things did happen frequently in them times and days, but it was tragic, you know, because there was people in bed, children and all that, when the floods come in and they couldn't get out. But 58... You would think because of the height of the water and all that, there'd have been a lot more, so the emergency services must have done a fantastic job.